Welcome to Veil Beyond, where we cross the threshold between myth and memory. To uncover the hidden architecture of the unseen world. In this episode, we descend into the heart of the Black Sun. To understand why every true awakening begins not in light, but in the alchemy of darkness. A disk without light beats beneath the snow of the world. It doesn't burn, it absorbs. It doesn't guide, it questions. The alchemists called it Sol Niger, the Black Sun, a circular night capable of swallowing the king of day and returning him changed, transfigured. But what if every true awakening begins with an inner eclipse? Today, we descend into the heart of that impossible sun. We'll trace its path through alchemy, where blackness is not an end, but a seed, through symbolic psychology, where the black sun marks the necessary fall of the self, and through history, where shadow becomes warning. In the end, you won't leave with a ritual manual, but with a compass to navigate your own nights. Because the Black Sun is not an object, it's a process, a language of collapse that, paradoxically, reorganizes. In the hermetic texts, Sol Niger names the blackness of Nigredo, the first threshold of the great work, the putrefaction of the old so that the new may emerge. In that crucible, the prima materia simmers and the psychic gold still sleeps within the coal. But not every symbol is innocent. In the 20th century, a dark solar design was embedded into the floor of a chamber in Wewelsburg, later adopted as an emblem by extremist movements. To understand is not to repeat, it is to disarm. This journey will also be a pedagogy of suspicion. The shadow is meant to help us see, not to be worshipped. Chapter 1. The Disk that Devours Light. The black sun doesn't shine, it devours. It's the image of an eclipse carried to its absolute. In hermetic manuscripts, it appears as a paradox, the sun, symbol of gold, clarity, and royalty, turned into darkness, silence, putrefaction. The texts speak of cooking, of matter turning to sludge, of a crown fallen into mud. If gold is incorruptible, why does its black mirror smell of wet earth and old iron? Because every great work begins with failure. The Nigredo is confession, a recognition of what is false, masked, proud, self-deceived. Descent here is not moral fall, but physical necessity. What's too tense breaks. What softens remakes itself. There is a sound in Nigredo, a slow creaking, like wood giving way. It doesn't announce ruin, but space. That hollow is the vessel where everything mixes again. Light, accustomed to ruling, withdraws, and then weight, scent, and density begin to speak. Small things appear, invisible under brightness, an old tremor in the jaw, a winter-named sadness, a patience we never practiced. The black sun doesn't impose dogma, it imposes rhythm. It slows the pulse, thickens time, turns breath into a rope that ties us back to what is real. In the alchemists' ovens, blackness was the sign that something was finally happening. The substance shed its form like an animal shedding skin. That abandonment wasn't surrender, it was strategy. What clings to form breaks, what yields transforms. In some miniatures, the darkened sun hovers over landscapes of livable ruins. Fallen towers serving as quarries, open cauldrons breathing steam. The laboratory night is not blind, It is tactile. You move forward by hand, not by sight. You learn to feel temperatures, to smell the promise in what still stinks. Think of a seed. Before it becomes a tree, it must go dark underground. The black sun is that soil. Dark, fertile, silent. There's a strange logic beneath the surface. The deeper the root, the richer the sap. No one sees roots grow, and yet they hold forests upright. So it is within us. What doesn't shine sustains. Beneath the dark disk, vanity loses oxygen. In its place, fibers appear, of habit, of tenderness, of boundaries. Merit stops being spectacle and becomes craft again. There is a pedagogy of color in the great work. Black is not aesthetic whim, it's method. The soot of the furnace clings to the hands and reminds us, every honest light has touched bottom at least once. The black sun teaches us to look without demanding comfort. It sits us before our broken pieces and, like a silent master, waits. Impatience fails in that chamber. The one who pounds the door hurts his knuckles. The one who stays learns the alphabet of slow combustions. Sometimes the mind protests. It wants clean metaphors, clear skies, formulas that glitter. The black sun answers with mud, with humidity, with that smell that announces both storm and harvest. Here, dignity no longer comes from being right, but from enduring the process without falsifying it. Because nothing turns to gold without blackening first. Like bread that doesn't crack without the oven, iron that doesn't temper without flame, or a word that carries no weight unless it has passed through silence. And yet, not everything is gravity. At the heart of the eclipse, there's a discreet joy, mineral, wordless, a quiet certainty. Something is being prepared. It's a joy that needs no music, no witness, that accepts its season, that knows gold is not invented, it's revealed. And revelation is not a magician's trick, but a cook's patience. Hours, steady heat, and the wisdom of not lifting the lid too soon. That's why old engravings showed a dark sun over ruins and steaming vessels, as if the sky had been absorbed by the laboratory. In the night of the alchemical vessel, form dissolves, and in that loss, destiny begins to take shape. The black sun, more than a star, is a pedagogy of humility. It restores us to our proper size, neither greater than the world nor less. Exact, sufficient. If the black sun is the crucible, someone must enter it. It's not enough to know the symbol. One must go through it. Who descends? The self. With what map? The shadow. Chapter 2. The psychology of the eclipse, when the self learns to darken. We call shadow that inventory of rejected aspects we exile from the self, out of fear or shame. The black sun is the moment when that exile stops working. Boundaries fray, old narratives crack, and through the fissures appears the face we refused. The psychological Nigredo is not melodrama. It's distillation. Bitterness adds notes, rancidness evaporates, essence remains. C.G. Jung and his followers saw Nigredo as an inevitable period of disorganization. The black stage as the stripping away of the superfluous, the death of the theatrical persona, so that a more grounded center can emerge. It's a time of symptoms, fatigue, loss of meaning, the collapse of self-images once taken for granted, but also a time of symbols, dreams of basements, oceans, fires that do not illuminate. Night has its own grammar: mineral, patient. Imagine a room where you've always kept the light on. One day you switch it off. Objects don't disappear. They change hierarchy. Hearing overtakes sight. Touch begins to think. Nigredo replaces one kind of light with another. The black sun doesn't shine, it resonates. Suddenly, you hear within yourself what the noise of self-assertion had drowned out. The old grief, the legitimate desire, the justified anger. What arises seems dangerous and yet exact, as if the eclipse were a trial without a judge, where the verdict is simply the recognition of what is real. Chapter 3. Weevelsburg. Stone, Wheel, and Warning. In northern Westphalia rises Weevelsburg, a triangular castle that, in the 20th century, was refashioned to test a mythology of iron. In one of its halls, the Obergruppenführersaal, a dark solar design was set into the floor, a 12-spoked wheel later called the Black Sun. The motif, drawn from much older solar wheels, was reinterpreted from a symbol of passage and transformation to one of supremacy and imperial destiny. The historical gesture is clear: to seize an archetypal form and fill it with ideology. Since then, for many, Black Sun became tangled with that episode. Extremist groups recycled it, forgetting that in the logic of the great work, blackness does not sanctify violence, it denounces it. Where alchemy sought the disarmament of the ego, politics inflated it into collective delirium. The shadow, instead of being integrated, was projected, with devastating results. This paradox demands an ethics of symbol, to understand its power without surrendering to its abuse. What history shows in stone, psychology shows in flesh. The same wheel that could have been a mandala of dissent became a seal of exclusion. The Black Sun warns us: the denied shadow seeks stages. If you don't work with it inside, you'll meet it outside, sometimes wearing a uniform, and yet the symbol survives its kidnappings. It returns to its source: alchemy. There, blackness is not a flag, but a phase. How then does transformation occur? Chapter 4. The Kitchen of Night. Anatomy of the Nigredo. The alchemist's table is not a morgue, it's a kitchen. Nigredo is the moment of burning, macerating, fermenting. The language smells of cellars and furnaces. Solve et coagula, dissolve and recombine. Death here is not absence, but metabolism. It's called putrefaction, not out of morbidity, but precision. Decay liberates. What smells bad no longer deceives. What collapses no longer pretends. What decomposes nourishes. In many symbolic systems, the solar triad, black, white, red, marks the stages of the work. Blackness that breaks form, whiteness that purifies, redness that integrates. Black precedes white, as night precedes dawn, as morning precedes clarity, as doubt precedes knowledge. In illuminated treatises, Splendor Solis, Philosophia Reformata, the dark sun presides over fertile ruins, decapitated kings who later reappear crowned with another substance. The psychic laboratory mirrors this. When a defining relationship breaks, when a guiding project collapses, when a cherished image of yourself melts, your world enters Nigredo, and the instinct, human, understandable, is to flee, to seek another artificial light rather than face the useful darkness. But if you stay, something happens. Time changes texture. The calendar dissolves into maturation. You stop measuring in hours and start measuring in thickness. Sadness stops being obstacle and becomes method. Then something strange appears. Recognition. As if the darkness were patiently returning the parts of you you once exiled out of fear. Nigredo doesn't demand heroism, it asks for honesty. Small fidelities, writing what hurts, allowing silence, maintaining the body through quiet routines, not rushing the exit. Because you don't escape Nigredo, you emerge from it, like from a river. The current cannot be fought, only accompanied. But where does this logic of dying to be born come from? Is it just a whim of old laboratories? Tradition answers with one voice. Death is the teacher of gold. Chapter 5. Inheritances and Echoes, from Saul Niger to Modern Culture. In hermetic maps, the sun corresponds to gold, royalty, incorruptibility. The black sun momentarily inverts that pact. It shows the gold still trapped in the mine. That's why its trace crosses languages. It appears in poetry, Le Soleil Noir, whispered by French symbolists. In engravings where a dark star presides over chemical weddings, in psychology, where collapse is the prelude to integration. It appears too in pop culture, sometimes as existential metaphor, other times as dark aesthetic flirting with nihilism. In metal music, the black sun evokes a cathartic tragedy. In comics and video games, it becomes an arcane relic, a forbidden energy that demands a price. Cinema uses it as an emotional eclipse. When a character hits bottom, the sky darkens at noon. All are echoes, some deep, some shallow, of the same alchemical intuition. Darkness is not mere negation, but matrix. And yes, there's also the dangerous echo, the extremist appropriation that turns symbols into cosmologies. So it's worth repeating. Understanding is not endorsement. To untangle these genealogies, to distinguish the historical Sonnenrad from the inner Nigredo, is an act of mental and ethical hygiene. Because a symbol can be medicine or poison, depending on dose and intention. If the black sun is a womb, what does it birth? How does it turn into dawn? The answer is not a trick, it's continuity. Chapter 6. From Black to Gold, the light that ripens in shadow. There is no noble shortcut around Nigredo. After it comes the whitening, albedo, and then the reddening, rubedo. But that golden end, whether literal or psychic, is already hidden within the blackness. Like winter, when trees appear dead, yet sap is thinking beneath the bark. The stillness of Nigredo is a microscopic kitchen. Old bonds break, new ones form, and the psyche gains plasticity. The light that will come learns in darkness to be less arrogant, to stop burning and start warming. Return now to the first image, a disk that doesn't shine, but draws everything toward its center. The black sun is the gravity of the process. It forces you to release your decorations, to let fall the inscriptions of self that no longer fit. It brings you back to the humblest verb, to be. Sometimes in that descent, a scent appears. Wet earth, a sound, unseen water, a vision, a fallen trunk holding up a whole forest. That is enough. Life, stripped of costume, is austere and sufficient. And when the light finally returns, it's no longer the same. A scar is not a wound. The clarity after darkness is not naive. It knows its cost. That's why the gold of the work is not ostentation. It is service. It doesn't dazzle, it accompanies. We have circled the black sun like one walking the rim of a well. Now comes the moment to look inside. What lesson whispers in that darkness that doesn't humiliate, but restores? The black sun is not a god. It's a verb. Not an artifact to possess, but a process that possesses you. It names the intelligence of loss, the art of timely dismantling, the dignity of collapse. If Nigredo is the eclipse of the self, what emerges afterward is not the same sun, but a humbler center. Darkness doesn't make you strong by resistance, but by truth. It takes away what you are not. That is the secret teaching. The shadow is not to be defeated. It is to be integrated. Its function is not to frighten you, but to return you to yourself. Thus, the black sun, rightly understood, becomes a symbol of responsibility. It reminds us that unprocessed energy turns into history, into violence, cult, propaganda, while processed energy becomes character, equanimity, tenderness, clear boundaries. Blackness is not the glorification of the sinister. It is the recognition of the real. The heart's laboratory needs no marble floors or symbols carved in stone. It needs time, courage, and silence, and one vow: not to flee when it hurts. Because at the deepest depth, the black sun performs its work. It unblocks life so that life may become livable. Maybe you weren't ready for a night, and yet, here you are, holding a map of metaphors and a compass that points inward. When your own eclipse arrives, because it will, remember, darkness does not hate you. It prepares you. Remember the seed and the mud, the furnace and the rain, the silence that cooks. If the symbol unsettles you, use it as a mirror, not a flag. If it seduces you, question it. If it scares you, sit beside it and listen to its sound. And when you finally see the sun again, the outer one or the inner, don't let it blind you into forgetting. Keep a corner of night inside you to remember where you were reborn. If this journey gave you something, a word, a breath, a quiet patience, subscribe. Share this episode with someone going through their own winter, and keep exploring with us the secret geography of symbols. Here each week, we light and extinguish suns with equal reverence.